Boker Tov, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us. It is a great honor to be able to learn together with you this special course of Tehillim, Perek Kuf Yutet, chapter 119. And today we're going to begin a new ot, a new letter. This is a letter of Vav. So we're starting Pasuk Mem Aleph 41. I would like to dedicate this class and all of the classes this week in memory of a special shliach, a dear friend, Rabbi Yudi Dukes, of blessed memory, who battled with COVID, unfortunately, for about, I think, 8 or 10 months. And he actually came out of the hospital about a month ago, but he had to go soon thereafter. He had to go back, and very, very young, 39 only, and with 6 young children. May Hashem protect and comfort his wife and his children. And Am Yisroel should not know of any more sorrow. It's just enough is enough. And Hashem has to bring Mashiach. B'ezrat Hashem, we daven every single moment that everyone that needs a refuah shalema should have a refuah shalema, a complete recovery. So now we are going to start on Pasuk, in Pasuk Mem Aleph, verse number 41. And David the Melech says as follows: Vivauni chasadecha Hashem. May your kindness reach me, Hashem. Tishuatcha ki imratecha. Your help, your salvation, as you have promised. The commentators say over here, even in Rashi, but in the others as well, that Hashem promised David the Melech that he is going to be the king. And that was against all odds. David and his sons will be Malchut Beit David, the kingdom of the house of David. And just like David the Melech says to Hashem, just like that promise was fulfilled, so too all the other promises should be fulfilled. Namely, that those that bother me should leave me alone, and I should be successful in my mission in this world. Membet, we're going to do 3 verses together, then we'll go a little bit deeper into these verses. Ve'eneh chorfi davar, so that I may give an answer to those who taunt me, or who taunt me. Ki vatachti bidvarecha, for I put my trust in your word. The 43 Mem Gimel. The al tatzel mipi dvar emet ad maod. Tatzel means to separate the good from the bad. So David the Melech says, the al tatzel mipi dvar emet ad maod. Never hold back the true word from my mouth. In other words, allow the truth to be in my mouth, away from the falsehood. For I hope for your laws. Okay, so first of all, let's look at these 3 verses. David the Melech says, King David beseeches by Hashem. Vivauni chasadecha Hashem. My request to you is that your kindness should come upon me, and through that, your salvation that you will do to me, as you have told me about my kingdom, as we said earlier. And then in the next verse, since your kindnesses will come upon me, as we said in 41, and you will fulfill your promises for me, even though I may not be worthy of your blessing, through this will be a response to those who curse me. King David says that they say you will take me, they ridicule me, and they say that you will take the kingdom away from me because of my sins. So I tell them, Ki vatachti bidvarecha, since I trust in your kindness, in your words, 100%, and you will never take it away from me. As we said, as we'll say in the next verse, V'al tatzel mipi dvar emet, you will not take the truth away from me, you will leave it here with me. Ki lemishpatecha yichalti, in the next verse, do not take away from my mouth the words of truth. Through all the pain and suffering and the worries that I have, the worries should not take me away from your truth. Why? Ki lemishpatecha yichalti, because I can't wait. I wish to be involved and to be engrossed in your mishpatim, in your laws. Now, here there's an interesting interpretation according to Chassidut in this verse, number 43, which states as follows. V'al tatzel mipi dvar emet ad ma'od. Do not take away the truth from my mouth. It says as follows, that when we deal with ruling Jewish law, halacha, it is very important to have a siyata deshmaya, a help from above. In other words, it's not enough to have the knowledge. You need to have a special siyata deshmaya, a special blessing from above, that we should be able to say the right halacha. And so, this is the Bnei Yisachar that says this interpretation. He says as follows. We see sometimes that there can be a person who is very knowledgeable and very important and a Torah scholar. But when it comes to the halacha, to Jewish law and giving the ruling, then sometimes he might say something which is clearly, obviously wrong. Because when it comes to halacha, we need to be right on. You either do it this way or you do it the other way. You either do it or you don't do it. It can't be both. You see, in Torah, we can have many, many opinions. Different opinions. Sometimes opposing opinions. And we have a phrase which states as follows. Elu va'elu, these and these, in other words, these opinions and those opinions, divrei Elokim chayim, are the words of the living God. So the famous question is, how could they both be the words of the living God? Hashem, who is our God, He gave us a Torah. You either do it, or the food is either kosher or non-kosher. Or the tefillin are either kosher or non-kosher. So how could both opinions be the word of the living God? And the answer is that there are different ways of interpreting the Torah. There's pshat, remez, drush, sod, the simple meaning, the hinting, the medrash, and the sod, the secret, which is Kabbalah. Then you have shiv'im panim Torah, 70 ways of understanding the Torah. And Alter Rebbe says in the Tanya that you can divide that into many, many different levels. So it's not just the 70. So when it comes to understanding Torah, you can have many opinions. And it's okay. In the Lishkat Hagazit, in one of the main chambers in the Beit HaMikdash, that's where the Sanhedrin of 71 rabbis, the Supreme Court of the Jewish nation, would sit in the Beit HaMikdash. Hopefully this moment we'll have the Beit HaMikdash, and once again we'll have the Sanhedrin there. And very often there was a big discussion about different halachic issues. But at the end of the day, the leader of the Sanhedrin needed to cut. That's why it's called, one of the reasons why it's called the Shkat Hagazit. because it means to cut. They would slice, they would make a decision in that room. They had to come to a final decision. Even if other Batei Din in different areas in Yerushalayim, in Israel, in the world, couldn't figure it out, when they came to the Supreme Court, they had to come to a decision. So all of the opinions of the rabbis are holy, are special. But at the end of the day, you have to say the halacha. So elu va'elu, these opinions and those opinions, are certainly divrei Elokim chayim, the word of the living God. It's just that when it comes to the halacha, it says in the pasuk, "V'Hashem imo," and Hashem is with him. And it says in the Gemara that this was said about Rabbi Akiva, "Shehalacha kamoto," that the halacha is like him. What does that mean? Like we said earlier, when it comes to the halacha, then there has to be a clear-cut halacha, exactly what Hashem wants. So the other opinions can be godly, but they're not necessarily the halacha. What I just said is explained in Chassidut about the difference between the name of Elokim and the name of Hashem. Before we started learning this course of Tehillim, we learned the beautiful mimer of Tafresh Nun Zayin, V'yadata, the knowledge of Hashem. And over there we talked about the name Havaya, the tetragrammaton, the Yud and the Hey and the Vav and the Hey. And then you have the Elokim. Hashem has many names, but Havaya is the Shem Ha'etzem, the essential name. And so, you come to Elokim, there is not so much revelation, more concealment than revelation. So therefore, you could have many levels, and you could have different opinions, and they're all godly. Everything in the world is from Hashem, especially when it comes to Torah. But which name of Hashem do we use when it comes to teach us about halacha? V'havaya imo. Quote unquote, the name of Hashem, Yud Kei Vav Kei, is with him, so to speak. In other words, if a person has the merit, the siyata d'shmaya, the extra measure of divine inspiration, what the actual halacha is, then we know that halacha kemoto, that the halacha is going to be like that person. And so, to summarize this whole subject, I expanded upon the Bnei Yisachar. But to summarize, what we're saying over here is that what is the way to seek siyata d'shmaya, divine inspiration, that the halacha, the ruling, should be the way it's supposed to be? That is through recognizing one's sins. If a person recognizes that a person has sins and that they have to take care of them, they have to wash them away, then that is a special segula, a special bracha that the person should follow according to the exact halacha that Hashem wants a person to observe. Okay, let's move on. We're up to, actually, there is one more beautiful interpretation over here. This is from Rabbi Steinsaltz, Rabbi Yisroel of blessed memory, and this is quoted in his Tehillim. He quotes from the Sfat Emet, from the great tzaddik, from the Gur dynasty, Hasidic dynasty. And the Sfat Emet bases this interpretation upon what he heard from the Chidushei Arim, the first Rebbe of Gur. What does it mean that we said earlier, tatzel? In this pasuk, mem gimel, v'al tetzel, v'al tatzel mipi, dvar emet ad me'od. So we learned earlier, do not set aside milashon atzilut, hafrasha. Do not take away the truth from my mouth. Leave it here with me. David the Melech turned to Hashem. And so, the Sfat Emet explains as follows. This world, this materialistic world, is called Alma de Shikra, the world of falsehood. And therefore, there's so much falsehood in the world wherever we look, that the emet, the truth, is literally moved away, mufrash, set aside. In other words, hidden. If the truth was more revealed, then the falsehood would not be able to be sustained. So, because the truth is set aside, therefore, that enables there to be so much falsehood. Like we learned last week about the Maimer of Yud Shvat, that there's the sheker, there's the falsehood of this world. And we have to turn around the letters and to build the Beit HaMikdash with a keresh, with the beams, with the cedar wood, and through that make the kesher, same three letters. Sheker, keresh, kesher. That makes the kesher the connection with Hashem. In the world of truth, that's Olam Haba, that's where there's only truth, only emet. If there was the level of emet, of truth, shining in this world, then everything would be totally batel, subservient, almost non-existent, because of the great bright shine of the truth. And as the Chidush Arim explained, that Olam is from the word Helim, concealment. So it's not only that the world is called Alma de Shikra, the world of falsehood. The fact itself that it's a world itself, that itself makes it false, Olam, which is falsehood, which is concealment. And therefore, the world can have an existence. Unfortunately, it says that the truth was thrown to the ground. What does that mean? That it's hidden beneath the ground. It's hidden. It's not revealed. So we, being Am Yisrael, we have the special siyata deshmaya. We have the special zechut to bring out the truth through Torah. Magid dvarav liYaakov, David the Melech says towards the end of the Tehillim in chapter 147, which is the innermost truth of the Torah. Therefore, David the Melech finishes off verse number 3. Since I'm asking you, Hashem, to connect me to the truth, and don't take the truth away from me, Kila mishpatecha yichalti. I rely, I hope, I wish for your mishpat, for your righteousness, and for your commandments, that they should keep me in line. And they should keep the truth with me, that I should be less involved with the Alma de Shikra, with the falsehood of the world, and more involved, more connected to the truth of your Torah. Okay, let's move on to the letter, to Pasuk Mem Dalet. The Eshmera Toratcha Tamid, 44. I will observe your Torah constantly, La'olam Va'ed, forever and ever. And this is a commitment that David HaMelech gives to Hashem, that since I will involve myself in depth to reach your words of truth, like we said in the earlier verse, Harei Eshmor Toratcha Tamid B'olam Hazeh, I will keep your Torah, Tamid, the first half of the verse refers to in this world, even though this is a world of falsehood, nevertheless, I am deepening my effort to reach the words of truth, and therefore I will keep it la'olam va'ed in the world to come as well. L'chaim. In other words, there are two ways for one to learn the Torah. There's one way to learn the Torah, to learn regular. But then there's the idea of making an effort and learning Torah in a very, very deep way, that the Torah should be engraved in our minds. There are some Sidurim that have the version of the blessing on the Torah, which is la'asok b'divrei Torah, to totally involve oneself in the learning of the Torah. And so that is more than the regular bracha that we have in the Chabad Siddur, which is al divrei Torah, for the words of Torah. La'asok means that you put yourself into it, like we learned just a moment ago, to deepen yourself deep in the words of truth. And therefore, that gives a person an ability to be able to come to new levels, new depths in the observance, in the learning of the Torah. The reason why the Alter Rebbe and the Siddur didn't have this bracha of la'asok b'divrei Torah is because the Siddur is for every regular person, and not everyone has this chut to deepen themselves in the deeper levels of Torah. So the bracha is for everyone, and so al divrei Torah, for the words of Torah. Within that is also included la'asok, to delve into the concept of learning Torah. Thank you very much for joining us. Bezrat Hashem, tonight we'll have our class continue the course of Seriously Happy. And Bezrat Hashem, tomorrow we're going to continue an amazing interpretation into a few interpretations into Pasuk Memhei, verse 45. All the best. Have a great day. Shalom, shalom.